Ah, so it's a good day to you, huh? Oh, we've got people all around us. Such a light, such a brightness, such an energy, such an illumination. We think Stonehenge is bright. Just wait till they see this place, huh? Oh, here we are, in between Stonehenge and Woodhenge. For those who we have not met, we are Aronda. And we are honored and pleased to bring our entire council with you. So you can live, so you can breathe, so you can be who you are. 128% at least, huh? You see, dearest ones, you are here because your soul called you here. Huh? You are here to honor that. You are here to remind yourself that you are a part of this land. Many of you remember when the stones were placed in Stonehenge. How many of you have seen that image where the stones were placed? Some of you have picked up old injuries that you entailed while there. Huh? Know that you can pull them out. They do not have to stay with you. You see, those old injuries, they are a part of you. They are a part of your soul, your light, your brightness, your energy, your connection. It is like they have made the tapestry that is you. And as that tapestry becomes aged, thousands of years maybe, yes, millennia, yes. So as that happens, the colors blend in together and become deeper and richer. And that is who you are. You are those deeper, richer colors that sometimes there's a little frayed spot in that tapestry. And that is where a pain pops up where you don't know where that pain is. Huh? No, it is just old stuff. If you're ready to let it go, just get a hold of it and pull it out. Honor it, thank it, love it, let it go. That is what you are here for, is that personal healing, yes? When you connect with the stones, whether you touch them or whether you just gaze upon their touching you with their energy. It is all just perspective, isn't it? Because you see, when you think, oh, I have to touch those stones, I have to run up and put our hands on them. That is because you are being limited by your human body. Well, stop it. You are not limited by your human body. You are only limited by those things that you believe you are limited by. Huh? Know that you are unlimited. You are limitless. You are expanded, and every single thought is being made manifest. So if your thought is, oh, I recognize what those stones feel like when we hoisted them up into the air, or you recognize what the stones felt like as the galactic beings levitated them all. There's quite a discussion about that, yes? We're not going to tell you the truth. For you see, that truth is already within you. But we do ask for you for one thing. Will you do something for us? Some of you said yes. Yeah. We want you to go back to your home and place a standing stone in your yard, in your apartment, somewhere. It does not have to be 20 feet tall. It can be 20 inches or 2 inches. But place a standing stone there as an emblem of connection. Because Stonehenge is on a very powerful ley line, along with Glastonbury, along with Sedona, Arizona, along with other power points of this planet. And with that emblem that you are placing there with the intention of that connection, what you are doing is you are maintaining this connection here. You are maintaining the grid work a bit stronger. We know the grids of the planet are very strong and getting stronger, yes? And yet, it somehow activates it when you look upon a standing stone in your yard, or you look upon a standing stone that you may place in your potted plant. We don't know. Whatever is most convenient for you. And that you breathe back into this time, this day. Now, you may be, people that are not here are listening to this in the future, yes? So we are asking them the same. To place a standing stone, connecting the energy of Stonehenge around the planet, because it, after all, as our dearest Glenn stated, thinking this was a celebration of life and that was a celebration of death, whatever. Whose story was that, eh? It is a celebration of you. It is honoring a divine being of light. It is honoring the divine that you are, the land, the sky, the water, the rain, the sun, the moon. You know it has been a division of time. You know it has been a division, even when they moved it from the lunar, the feminine, to the masculine. That is just a location. This is the time when the masculine and the feminine are coming into perfect balance. Yes? This is the time when those who are different from you are coming into perfect balance with you. This is the time when all things are becoming one. This is the time when you and your soul are also becoming one. This is you. This is where we are. This is who we are. This is who you are. As that energy precludes you, as that energy goes before you, of when you walk into a space and you feel the space welcoming you. As you walk these lands, many of you have had remembrance. Our vessel Marilyn sat down here on the bench and nearly wept in front of everyone, which would not make her happy, we guarantee that, because she remembers the time when she sat here, very close to the ground, but not on the ground, and taught and sang, and with you, many of you. And she wept and thought, oh, how can we channel now? And yet we were not there. Ah, dearest beloveds, I was there, as were many of you, if not all. You received this divine appointment, this divine calling to be here. And here you are. I am that. I am. That is the words. That are the words of the teaching. As it was stated long ago, I am that. I am that. I am that. I am that. I am this. I am all, including you. You have that choice now. To leave behind that old program of self-punishment. To leave behind that old belief that somehow you must have done something wrong to deserve something. Well, as our dearest Adirondha would say, get over it. Because when you believe that somehow you are being held back by something, some perception, some idea, some imprint, then if you believe that, then you are. And I am here to tell you, dearest beloveds, that you are not. You are created in divine perfection. Divine perfection. And that divine perfection does not make mistakes. You are the light, the strength, the courage to be you, the loving of you, the wisdom as only you can share. You are each that unique individual that cannot be repeated. And as it cannot be repeated, it is necessary for you to stand strong in your truth and ask yourself, is my truth being colored by those old beliefs? It must be true, the bells are ringing. Is my truth being somehow biased by old energy? Is my truth being somehow influenced by some thought that anchored in that somehow I was not enough? How would the world have been different if I would have said, oh, I'm not enough for this task, dear Creator? The world could be just as different if you claimed your strength and said, I am enough for this task. I am that I am. With that intention, as we sit amongst the grass, as it's tickling your feet and your legs and your bottom, know that the earth is caressing you as well. The sun is caressing you as well. I have not come in any place other than Israel so often, and yet I walked here as well. And I am honored to be in your presence once again. You are me, and I am you, and we are indeed one together. You must always remember this. For it is you that I love forever and ever. Hoo-ha! You have to love that, huh? Ah, you see, huh? You remember, huh? Everything gets quiet, oh, but the beepers are going by on the road. So with that intention, no, you must step in, step up. Say, I volunteer for this mission of shifting the consciousness of this planet. And if placing a standing stone in my front yard for my neighbors to wonder about, how great would that be, eh? For you see, when they ask, you can say, oh, this helps raise the consciousness of the planet. And then they'll say, what does that mean? Well, it's good, just know that. And then they'll put one in their yard too. You know, in our very first transmission, we mentioned the 11:11 time period. At 11:11 a.m., send healing energy to the planet. And 11:11 p.m., look up and we will wave back at you. 11:11 a.m., 10 years later, our vessel Marilyn's uncle, who was a very fundamentalist religious person, sent her an email and said their whole church was having a prayer meeting every day at 11:11 to send healing energy to the planet. You see, it only takes one individual to shift the consciousness. And if one standing stone helps, then how wondrous is that, eh? Oh, we love you all so much. We see who you are, we see your heart, we see your soul, and we love you all the more. As soon as you see yourself as we see you, you will indeed know how to live. Namaste.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. For those listening later, we are in a grassy field only a few miles in the island of the UK, in that place called Stonehenge. This particular message may leap around from subject to subject, but I want to call it in honor of the ancestors. A little while ago, I sat in the middle of Stonehenge and gave messages. And what I wish to do at this point in time is enhance that and keep going on one major subject. And that's who was here, how it relates to you, and what I'm going to call the incredible bias of modern civilization. Where do I begin? Stone moving is a specialist's job. They had stone engineers, and they weren't the only ones, dear ones. They were also in places all over this planet. You've seen it specifically in Egypt. You've seen it in Easter Island. You see it in Bolivia, in Colombia, in Peru. Huge, massive stones move from place to place, balanced, just like here. And you have decided, because those ancestors don't have a crane, it has to be ETs. This is a bias, you know. I'll say it again. The galactic entities who move the stones are described as human beings. You are galactic entities. And the mysterious force used to move those stones is called human cleverness and intelligence. And we will say it yet again. With enough cleverness, intelligence, the ability to move stones using water, holes, dirt, fulcrums, gravity, tilting, and knowing what you're doing, has built incredible things beyond anything you have seen that actually lasted. And who built these things, you might ask? You want to know what kind of person, what was the mystery here? I'll tell you who built it. Fred and Henry and George. Just like you. Just like you. They thought like you. They loved like you. They looked at the skies and wondered like you. And their intelligence might have actually been a little higher than yours, because they didn't have a crane. And this is what I want to say. In so many different things and ways, Stonehenge seems to be a mystery. A mystery only because you have not brought it back to yourselves. What would you be doing without that which you have, which is high technology, only caused through an evolving human spirit on the planet? You have what you have because enough time has gone by for discovery. But the human without discovery is simply a human like you without a crane, or an iPhone, or a Samsung. Do you understand? Elegant, clever. But beyond that, there is something more. And I want to discuss it. What you see at Stonehenge is a very excited civilization who had moved from that which I will call building stones 1,000 years earlier that represented the beauty of fertility and the skies of Gaia into a technological based science, for the first time a science-based civilization. This explains going from the feminine to the masculine, from fertility to what they would call the science of the day. They were extremely excited because they had observed, figured out, and evolved into a society that saw how the solar system actually worked in their neighborhood. The sun, the moon, the earth, the seasons, the alignments. After all that time, with the mathematics, they had figured it out. Not only that, their geometry had become so elegant, they could build things in perfect circles they couldn't before. 1,000 years earlier, the henges you saw, built in the same fashion, by the way, by stone engineers, by the way, but they were about fertility. They hadn't got yet to that place where they had figured it out. This Stonehenge is science. And you look at this and you say, what is the incredible mystery? How is it that the shadows can fall a certain way? What is this mystery around? It's not mysterious any more than the mystery of electricity, the mystery of the phone you carry. There is no mystery there. It is science. They discovered, finally. And the excitement was this, that they could build something that showed it off. With the sunrise and the solstices and all of these things, the excitement was they were right. As perfect as they could make Stonehenge, the sun, the moon, all that was represented there, the shadows would fall in the exact places that they had finally computed. This was high science, and they wanted to show it off. And they did. Henry and Fred and George and all of those that put this together. This was the beginning of celestial understanding. And of course, with that, there was some mysteries that they had. What was the energy they felt when they built something that had sacred geometry? Because they could. And before, they didn't know how. It's an evolvement, dear ones, not a mystery. With clever people just like you. Stonehenge is where Stonehenge is because of the reasons I've given you. All over this island, the grids intersect in ways that create energy that is amplified dramatically. And the amplification, in conjunction with ley lines and the Gaia grid, the crystalline grid, creates places that really ring and resonate with beauty and energy. And they felt it too. You're not the only humans that walk this land and felt things here. They did too. They're just like you, George and Henry, Fred. And they decided to put it at a fulcrum that made sense energetically. And they didn't need help with that any more than you do. They may have used divining like you do, or they may have wet their finger and held it up. In other words, dear ones, they sensed energy like you do. They had the elegance that you do. I've told you in the past that the ancestors were involved in 4 energies: birth, death, study of ancestors, and Gaia. These are the 4. And you can see this evolution dramatically, going from birth to fertility, all the way to the science, and that is the emulation and alignment with the stars, solstice, position of the earth, sun, and moon. But they still surrounded this with birth and death and that which pertained to the ancestors. Now, as proof of that, even though they had discovered the science to build Stonehenge, they had their burials around it. And there is no mystery. There was no celebration of some strange energy where they had to bury their dead. This is what they did for centuries, because Stonehenge, as well as many of the other circles, were the center of activity for everything that was for hundreds of miles around. What did they do there? They wore strange costumes, built fires, and sacrificed goats. Just ask some people. Or worse. And I will give you the answer. This was like a town center. People walked for days to come here. And it wasn't necessarily then to bow to some rock, like some have thought. It was to enjoy celebrations of birth and death and ancestry and the great science, or even to watch the shadows fall a certain way on a certain rock. And they went, this is high science. We understand it now. Isn't it great? You can all see it. The celebrations they had were still about birth. They buried their dead around there because this is where the humans celebrate and feel things. This was the center of the center. Now, there's one thing that is hard to prove. I'm going to tell you. There is no evidence anymore of the birthstones. They didn't just bury their dead. They came here to give birth. Doesn't it make sense? Birth. The fertility is still there. The honoring of the fertility is still there. But you don't see the birthstones because this is hard to prove. Here's a stone where everybody gave birth. No, you assign other things to it other than something that simple, that beautiful, that elementary that you all still have to this day. The celebration of the birth of a child. And if you put it near the center, the stone, the place where you meet, the high science, it just makes sense. This is where you're born, this is where you're buried, this is where you celebrate. This is where the best of the best is. We told you about the paintings on the inside of the walls that changed depending upon what you were doing. There was no single purpose reason for Stonehenge. This was the place where you met. And you celebrated this and that and this and that. Just as you do today with certain places you meet. Whether you play a game or whether you celebrate, it has many purposes. Demystify some of these things. Is the energy special here? Yes. Is it a little more special at the henge? Yes. That's why they put it there. The henge didn't create the specialness. They put it there because this is where the grids align and the ley lines come together and increase with human consciousness. That's just one part of what I want to tell you. I want to talk about what civilization has done and the bias, incredible bias, of modern civilization compared to those who are at the henge and those who built it. If you ask those, what is the definition of civilization? Ask anthropologists and historians, and they will say, well, we follow a 5-point examination plan. You have to have organized government. You have to have organized religion. Number 3, job specifications, that is, different jobs for different people. Number 4, you have to have artwork. And number 5, profound writings. And if you have those 5 things, you have a civilization. What do you think of paganism? Let's examine that for a moment, even before we examine the 5 points of civilization. What is the definition of being a pagan? And if you go back to the original word source, not what has become of it, but what it truly means, it means those without Christ. So let's go to the seat of all civilization. As some would say, well, that has to be the Greeks. The beginning of language, the beginning of teachings, of poetry, of so much. It's the Greeks. It's the Romans, maybe, perhaps. Well, they're all pagans. You understand that, don't you? So before you call these who built this stone pagans, I want you to take a look at your own civilization that you do understand and that you do know and understand what paganism is. Yes, they were pagans, meaning they didn't yet have that which you call today the belief in the Master of Love. They were 1,000 years in advance of that. So how do they stack up with that which is the definition of civilization? Well, I'm not going to read that off to you. I'm going to instead tell you that perhaps, just perhaps, the ones who've defined what civilization is are biased a bit. They're so biased it would be like this. What is the definition of a human? A human being is one who thinks like me. And that means everyone in the past who didn't think like me is not a human. It's almost like that. We've said it before. As human beings, as historians, go back in time, they assume that they're dumber. And the further back you go, the stupider the human being becomes. Dear ones, that is not the case at all. It may even be the reverse. And I present yet again the ancestors who sit right here looking at you, who are smiling and saying, tell it like it is, Kryon, would look at your civilization and weep. Let me give you their definition of civilization. Civilization are human beings who get together and understand the beauty of birth, the honoring of death, the understanding of the profound place that ancestors have in your lineage and their wisdom, and the place called Gaia, the earth, and its relationship to life. And where does that put you today? In those 5 attributes of civilization given only a couple of years ago, where is the honoring of the ancestors? Where is the acknowledgement that the life force of Gaia must be recognized in some form, or you don't have a civilization? Do you see what I'm saying? Modern civilization has decided Gaia is not included, is not needed, is not necessary, and that your ancestors are simply buried and gone. And the ancestors here knew better. That, dear ones, is the mystery here. How did you lose it? If you want a mystery of the ages, how did you lose it? They had it here. Oh, they didn't have your technology, and they looked different, and they dressed different. But they loved the same, and sang the same, danced the same, and knew about Gaia, and appreciated and understood their ancestors. So many times you go back and see the stones, for instance, on Easter Island. And what was the assumption on Easter Island? Well, they're all gods. They worship gods. Until they found out later from the Rapa Nui, who knew better, that every single stone represented ancestry. They honored their ancestors, built the Moai stones, and made them face inward on the islands so that the wisdom of the ancestors would always be looking over them. You talk about civilization. Where is it today? And we say to you that in the evolution of consciousness on this planet, that will be revived by those who start to understand that the ones who built Stonehenge might have known just a little more than you do, might have been a little more clever than you are, without the electronics, without the communications, and without the crane. Celebrate Fred, George, Bob, and the ones who think just like you, who put that together with the high science they had finally figured out through evolution and mathematics on how the earth really works. Continue to think on these things and understand that the mystery is still there, but it is inside you. How are you going to bring it back? You will. And so it is.